Hi guys, welcome to Facebook Live. I'm your host, Rose.
And I'm your host, Lauren.
And today we have Mara here as a special guest. And we're going to be going over how to prepare for a hands-on career online. But before we jump in, Lauren, do you want to go over a couple of do's and don'ts for today?
Sure, definitely do leave any questions that you have in the comments today. We'd be happy to answer them. We have our backstage buddy Des in the comments section to give you an immediate response. And we love to see them too. So definitely anything you want to know, leave it in the comments. And if you are interested in talking to someone directly about possibly enrolling in a Penn Foster program or just getting to know more about Penn Foster, you're welcome to send us a message on our Facebook page or give us a call. The number for admissions is 1-888-427-6500. If you are a current student and you have any questions, you can call Student Services at 1-888-427-1000. But do not leave any personal information in the comments because, of course, they are public. So if you need to share a student number or a phone number, make sure you're giving us a call or sending us a message. And also, please like and share. And if you have any friends that are interested in maybe changing jobs or exploring a new career path, applying for a promotion and needing to get that extra bit of education to help get there, definitely tag them or share this with them because we love having everyone involved in this conversation. And we have, as Rose said, an expert here in our programs, Mara, to talk to us today about everything that's on our agenda, including what hands-on programs you could study for online, how the Learn, Practice, Apply model works, how interactives and animations can help visual learners, the types of activities to practice what you learn, externships for real-world experience, and applying what you learned on the job. So with that being said, Mara, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do at Penn Foster and then share a fun fact about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Mara Hyman. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm a program expert at Penn Foster, and essentially what that entails is I work pretty cross-functionally with a few different teams within Penn Foster, but the gist of my work is collaborating with our programs team who helps facilitate anytime that one of our programs undergoes an update or we have a brand new program we're launching, which is always exciting. So essentially they work with us to share the information that we need to then relay and communicate to our students so that they're well informed of any updates we have so that they know what to expect with a program.
Yeah, we're always making like positive changes. And I mean, that's, of course, we are always looking at what's going on in the market and what's going on in the workforce nationally. So we're always making updates and changes. And Mara is the person that goes in and communicates these changes to all of you guys out there. So you know, like what is, you know, what are the coolest new programs, what actually is a new program, what is updated, what the cool work fields are, all of that stuff Mara is an absolute expert on. But Mara, let's hear a fun fact about you so we can all get to know you better.
Sure. So a fun fact about me is that I have traveled to over half of the states in the U.S. Granted, most of that travel was done in a 6-week period on a bus and when I was in high school.
That's
but
so cool.
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of travel, at least domestically.
What is your favorite state so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd probably say New Mexico. I went to Albuquerque, and the shopping we did and all the sites that we saw, it was just very funky. So I just really liked how like different New Mexico was compared to some of the other places we saw, especially on the West Coast.
I hope there's some people in the comments who are from New Mexico that can get a shout out.
Yes.
I've been to quite a few states, and I haven't been to New Mexico, and it's one that is on my list, and I really want to go. I hear great things about it. Definitely. Gotta say though, Pennsylvania is a great state too, guys. Yeah. Where I live.
In Massachusetts, where I am.
Yeah. So I think that is a really fun fact, and I can't believe you did that in 6 weeks. That's the wild.
Pretty crazy.
Very, very fun. As our program specialist, our expert, I think it's so great to have you here because I think we have a lot of people out there that kind of wonder what it's like to be a Penn Foster student, what the programs are really like, why we make these updates, because we do send out emails that you may have received when there is an update. And it's kind of like, well, why do we have these updates? Why are they, how do they affect me? And today we can answer all of those questions for you. If you have those questions, leave them in the comments. If you're wondering like what a certain thing means out there. But Mara is going to really kind of keep us in the loop here today on what a lot of that stuff means. She's going to break it down. So, Mara, as far as learning hands-on skills online, it almost seems counterintuitive. We think of hands-on skills as something that you have to have your hands on something physical to learn it. So we don't think of that exactly as like opening up a laptop and gaining hands-on skills. So do you kind of mind explaining a little bit of what that means to learn hands-on skills online with Penn Foster?
Yeah, absolutely. So for some skills, for some careers that are very hands-on, such as, plumbing and construction trades, it might seem like you can't learn everything you need to know through an online program, which is very natural to assume, like, shouldn't you have hands-on training for these very hands-on jobs? But interestingly enough, oftentimes you need education or experience to qualify for a job in the field just to get that hands-on training. And so online learning is a great first step and a really effective way for many people who are really looking for that balance of work and home life and are craving that flexibility in their training and education. So when it comes to Penn Foster specifically, learning online isn't just about reading study guides and taking tests. There are a lot of resources available and visual aids that are built right into every program. So when you think of online education, you might think about reading a lot of text and then answering multiple choice questions, which sounds a little bit dense, but we're really evolving into a new world, especially, a year and a half into the pandemic, where learning online is really embraced and you can do a lot online, and using scenario-based exercises and practice simulations to gradually build your skills over time.
To me, I think that's just like a more fun way to learn too. Like interactive exercises rather than long form reading to me is like, okay, sign me up for that. Long form reading? Ooh, I don't know. So it is a fun and interesting way, I think, of learning online, but also gaining those like tactical skills that you think of as being on the workforce or in an apprenticeship or something online. It's a super cool thing that we're figuring out in our programs.
Yeah, like, right. I know for me personally, like, I learn by doing, and I'm also a very visual learner, and I know a lot of our students are as well. So I think we really try to tap into that and embrace that so that, like you said, the learning is fun and engaging and interactive.
Yeah. So with that, like you said, you are somebody who likes to learn visually, and there are a lot of occupations where you kind of have to get to know the physical aspect of that job or that career that you're preparing for. Like if you're going to be an optician, you need to actually see what you'll be working with so that you feel prepared when you're going to apply for jobs or apply for an apprenticeship or something that really gets you in the field. So how do you actually practice what you learn when you're taking a Penn Foster program?
That's a great question. So there are a number of ways that you can really absorb the material that you're learning, and we take a number of different approaches. So we have interactives where you can really, immerse yourself in the material and, press different buttons that correlate to different definitions or different, parts of the body or things like that. So you can really understand, exactly what you're learning. Different animations like diagrams and practice quizzes. We also use live action how-to videos from a number of experts in the field across industries to see how to apply the concepts you're reading about and see them in real life, to not just look at these interactives and animations like I said before, but to really be able to picture what the role that you're seeking could look like. And some of the examples of recent updates that we've had that contain some of these different interactive elements are our veterinary technician associate degree program, our construction trades and plumber career diplomas, our pharmacy technician and farm tech professional programs. We also have a couple of new updates that are coming up. In particular, our optician program, which stay tuned for some of the updates for that in October, as well as our residential electrician program, which is receiving some updates tomorrow, actually.
Ooh. We like new updates. That's fun.
Yeah.
What about, are there any projects or assignments that a learner will need to do?
Yeah, so in addition to these like interactive components of our programs, we do make sure that, like any learning environment, that you're practicing what you've learned in your own time. So examples of that are papers, spreadsheets, and that really depends on the program. So it can vary the extent of written work you have to do versus, more creative work. That can also include hands-on projects that you complete in your own time to really cement that knowledge. And students can also interact directly with our instructors and receive feedback from them because they are experts in the field, and your instructors are really there to review the projects that you've worked so hard on and give you feedback to improve on your work moving throughout the program, and to even help you with any questions as you get stuck. So we have a number of resources to make sure that you are being supported and encouraged along the way, to make sure that you're getting the most out of your program that you can.
So I think that's a really good point that you bring up too, about being able to do these things at your own pace and at your own time, and that you do get to work on different projects and use those hands-on skills at home. And I know that a couple of our programs we actually send out kits for, where you have real materials that you can put your hands on and work with. So that's always an interesting piece of the puzzle too, I think. But one thing that we do talk about a lot, and I think that, if anyone's out there and you get our emails or you go to our website, you might hear about learn, practice, apply. And this model of learning, practicing, and then applying it to what you do. So that's kind of a fast way of saying it, but what does that really mean? So Mara, could you explain like what the learn, practice, apply model is exactly? And, since people are seeing it now all over our website.
Yeah, of course. So, what we've been saying all along is that the best way to really remember information is to practice what you've learned. So reading and recalling that information that you just read is not necessarily the best way to learn something new, because a lot of people, myself included, struggle to retain that kind of information that's just in text form in the long term, which is not the most helpful necessarily for your career prospects when you really are trying to gain the information that you need to be successful on day one of the job. So instead, we deploy the learn, practice, apply model that lets you learn a new concept, then asks you to practice it through interactive simulations or brief quizzes as you go, and then it has you apply the new skills and knowledge in an assessment. So learn, practice, and apply. And many of Penn Foster's programs include study units that have short periods of reading followed by practice quizzes to help retain what you studied, as opposed to reading a giant amount of text and then having a major test at the end where you have to retain a large chunk of information, which is daunting for anyone. So we really encourage learning in short bursts so that you stay engaged and are continually retaining the information and building upon what you've learned as you go throughout a program. So we use visual aids and demonstrations and videos to really help you remember and use what you learn on the job so that you have all the information you need to apply that information to the real world.
I've seen a lot of our different our videos and demonstrations and things that you're talking about, and they really are so helpful. It kind of, I don't know how you guys all feel out there, how you two feel, but I kind of sometimes feel like reading is like one step into doing it. So it's almost like a middleman process. So you could just go and do something, or you have to, you know, stop, read it. If it's a long form text, then it's like, oh boy, this is a lot to remember. And then you take it from there into the application, where I feel like our video demonstrations, it's so organic. Like you watch it and then you're like, you see how it's done instead of having to translate it from words into a visual image and then do it. It's such an easier way of learning, I think, because I always struggle with long form text, not my favorite thing to read through. Especially, I think we all are familiar with learning long form through long form text is a little bit less fun than maybe a fiction book. You know, it doesn't take you on the same kind of a journey. It's usually kind of technical. So I do feel like those videos really, and the demonstrations, they just kind of like, oh, I get it. Like this is fast tracking my learning. I just think they're really so helpful. And all of the demonstrations I've seen, especially in these programs that we have launched now, it's just such an easier way to learn, which I think we all want to, you know, we want to get down to the nitty gritty of it. We all want to learn what we're here to learn. You know, we're not necessarily looking to curl up with a book under a tree for a couple of hours. So.
Totally.
Right.
And I feel like with that very dense text-based learning, you know, when you have a quiz that follows, a lot of times you're just reiterating the information that's been relayed to you, but you might not fully absorb it. So you can recite it back, but you might not really understand what exactly you're learning. So when you have a more interactive learning model and a more visual learning model, you're really able to see what you're reading on screen and kind of put the pieces together in your head, and that in turn results in a much more dynamic learning experience.
Yeah. And I think the short forms too, with the little quizzes, like a little bit of reading, then a quiz, it just makes it so much more bite-sized and it's just easier to digest in general.
Yeah, it's all a balance.
Yeah. And I think being real too, our learners, you know, if you're thinking about going to school online, you probably have a million other things going on in your life, whether that be a job, your family, taking care of kids, a million other things. So you want something where, you know, you might not have all day to be studying and focusing on school. You might need to fit in your learning to a lunch break or, you know, an hour before bed. So being able to digest the information and actually retain it is going to help you succeed, because like to your point, Mara, just memorizing things for a quiz and then forgetting it is not helpful if you can't, you know, dedicate a ton of time in one block to studying. So I think that's a really helpful aspect too. But that being said, we do have some programs that aim to prepare you for careers where it's a really heavy, you know, physical element, like veterinary technician, for example. Mm-hmm. So we do have some programs that have an externship component because of that level of importance. So Mara, could you tell us a little bit about how externships work and what programs require externships?
Absolutely, yeah. So there definitely are cases where it can still be very helpful to get that in-person learning experience in conjunction with what you're learning online. So for a handful of our programs, you are able to take what you've learned in practice and apply it to hands-on work in the form of an internship. So depending on your program, you'll complete a number of hours working at a site that's relevant to your specific career path. So you'll cover the necessary skills in real life situations to get better and understand the material that you studied in your classes and be able to apply that knowledge directly. So we are always working to ensure that our learning has access to real world on the job training opportunities to really help complement what you've learned online. So in some cases, that's required to get certified or start working in the field. And in other cases, it's optional work that many learners choose to pursue just to really enhance their education. So some of the particular programs that we have that do include an externship component are our pharmacy technician professional program, our vet technician associate degree program, our vet assistant program, as well as the medical assistant program.
I think the other thing with externships is, I mean, the eventual goal is you want to be working in those environments. So it seems like a really good place, like if your program allows it, like the four that you had just mentioned, it gives you that opportunity to actually work in the environment, but also like gets your foot in the door to the next step, which is hopefully that career path. So I feel like just the externships are super handy for the programs that do have them. And like you said, like a vet technician, like that is some really involved anatomy and physiology, and a lot of it like you have to experience. I know on our Facebook page, our vet tech Facebook page, it seems like it comes up quite a bit where people are like, I did my first blood draw. So like there's things that you have to learn that are just very hands-on and in delicate situations like that, where I think an externship really comes in handy for especially those more medical kind of scenarios where you need to know your stuff a little bit closer than some other programs.
Definitely. Yeah, our goal is definitely to make this education and training accessible to all of you to be able to learn in ways that are convenient to you and your lifestyle. But like Rose said, some career paths really require that in-person element as part of your training and education. So that is why we do require externships for some of those really, really hands-on programs, because we do want to make sure that you have the skills to be set up for success on the job.
Yeah, and not only that, but an externship can really give you a boost of confidence in solidifying what you're learning and directly applying that to hands-on experience where you're really getting a taste of what your dream job could look like, and really cement that passion and interest for the industry that you're pursuing an education in.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of those, I love our vet techs so much because they like to really, really share. So I appreciate you vet techs out there that are watching, because you like to share your experiences. But I think it also is, like we were saying, like getting your foot in the door of those actual careers, because if that's what you're going to be doing, you might as well use some of that in the learning process too. Like be in that environment, because then your next step is you're 100% in that environment. So.
Absolutely. So, Mara, one thing that you are the expert in, like above all almost, is like why we, for certain programs, like do keep these updates in mind to make them more compatible for visual learners or people who will ultimately need to like really be doing more physical work. So can you tell us a little bit more about programs that we've really put a lot of focus on to, make better for those learners who need that like visual component to their learning elements, so that they can be better prepared for these hands-on jobs?
Sure. So, as we've been talking about all along, the best way to learn something new is through an approach that combines multiple different elements of learning, like reading, listening, watching, and doing. So, if that's something that resonates with you, then programs that have a heavy emphasis on animations and interactives and diagrams and videos may be your best fit. So some of those programs that we really put that emphasis into is our veterinary technician program, plumber, construction trades, pharmacy technician, and pharmacy technician professional, as well as our HVAC technician training. So each of these videos include those diagrams and easy to follow how-to videos and animations and other tools that can help a visual learner really excel in their studies. So I actually have a couple of examples today that I can share with you all, just to give everyone who's watching a little bit of a glimpse into, we're talking about all these visuals, but what do they actually look like? So I'm going to show a couple right now. I'm going to share my screen.
This is so helpful. So if you've been following our conversation on Facebook Live today, you really get the full visual experience.
Definitely. So the first example I'm going to show you here is a live action demo from our veterinary technician program. And this is an example of showing lateral recumbency. So I'll just show a few seconds here and then move on to the next one.
Restraint in lateral recumbency gives still more control than the sternal position and is often used when drawing blood from or placing an IV catheter in the lateral saphenous vein. This position can also be effective when a dog is not cooperative enough to sit still in either the standing or sternal positions, and the dog can be distracted in this position by a third person talking to the dog or rubbing its ears or face if it is not being aggressive. Begin with the dog in a standing restraint. For a small dog, you may be able to move the dog.
I love that this video shows vet techs on the job actually performing this maneuver.
Reach over the dog's abdomen with your arm closest to its hind end.
Yeah, so the great thing about that example is that it's one thing to look at a dog or any other animal in like a diagram, but it's another to really see that animal moving and to, picture this type of a process and how it would actually unfold. So.
Yeah, I like the pieces about like the dog not cooperating, because you certainly don't get that in the book. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if a dog is gonna, and that's pretty realistic. I mean, dogs don't exactly love the vet typically. So this is definitely more of a real world look of how it looks, and it's a lot better than just reading this in a book for sure.
Absolutely. The next example I have here is from the pharmacy technician program, and this is an example of an animation. So this is an explanation of incident reports.
Okay.
Writing an incident report is one way to protect yourself as a pharmacy technician. If you come across something that could have harmed a patient, fill out an incident report as soon as possible. Most importantly, you need to correct the incident immediately so that it doesn't harm anyone. The quicker you document a situation, the more facts you'll remember about it. If the action wasn't documented, then legally, it didn't happen. You would need to write an incident report if, for example, you noticed that a patient's prescription was filled with the wrong medication. This label reads that the patient was to receive Novolog 7030, but the insulin vial inside the bag is Lantus. First, you must correct this error immediately and bring it to the attention of a manager.
So I'll stop that one there, but that's a great example of something where you could read the step-by-step of how to, file an incident report in a textbook, but it's another to see that step-by-step documented more visually to really be able to process that and understand what steps are needed, because this is something that's so, important to, anyone who's in this type of career.
I already feel like I've picked up some vet tech and farm tech tips today.
Yeah.
It does help you really absorb it so much more easily to see it in motion and see the step by step.
Absolutely. And then the final example I'll show here, which is a little bit of a teaser for our optician program, which, like I said, is going to receive an update in October. This is an example of it's a 3D diagram of an eyeball, which, for some people might be a little bit creepy. I think it's pretty cool, actually. So in this is an interactive simulation where you can click directly on the eyeball, click and drag it around to see the different parts of it, not just the front of it, but also the sides and behind it. You can see on the left-hand side here, there are different buttons where you can click on the different parts of an eye. So like a retina, it goes immediately to it and highlights that section, and then shows a text definition on the bottom of the screen. So you can continue to go through, and it'll show you the different parts, and you can even drag around when you're in that section. So this is pretty cool, just to be able to play with it and really, get that hands-on element of learning.
Yeah, that is really cool to be able to see from all the different angles, because that comes in handy when you're working in the field. It's not just going to always be the side view that you see in a textbook or the front and side. This really gives you that all around view. And also, I think the eyeball is pretty cool. I like it too. That was really interesting. And I think it really shows that learning in a way like that's more interactive through the animation, through the video simulations, and through that final one. What do we call the one with the eyeball? What is that, a demonstration?
It's like an interactive demonstration.
I feel like it helps you learn faster, which is the goal, which also can help people graduate faster. Mm-hmm. It takes less time to absorb that information. So it really does help you kind of get where you have to go sooner. Really cool stuff. I really enjoyed that. I could watch that all day.
Yes, I mean, all these examples are very different, as you notice, but the through line and through all of them is that, with all these updates that we're making, Penn Foster really has been striving to stay ahead of industry trends. And anytime we see something that should be reflected in our programs, we make an effort to, have that reflected so that our students get the most up-to-date information they can, and also the skills that they need to be successful for the jobs of today, not the jobs of yesterday, but really the information that they need to be successful from day one.
Yeah, it's very cool. We've got some really cool stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So exciting. Can't wait to see residential electrician.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it seems like these skills are a great enhancement to someone's resume, or a great thing to talk about in a job interview. So these skills that you can learn, even when they are just online through these interactives and these demonstrations, would be great into helping you translate those skills to an actual job, right?
Absolutely. I mean, all these skills that you're gaining through these interactive simulations are great conversation starters in interviews, and being able to speak confidently about what you've learned and how you can directly apply that to your role. Once you start a job and you go through the whole onboarding and training process, you can say, I can do that, and really be able to speak confidently about what you're learning and the skills that you gained.
Yeah, it's definitely so interesting to think what you can learn online. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that we always think like, oh, you can't get that hands-on experience, but all of these new interactive ways, like the way that technology can work for us now, and the way that Penn Foster is bringing in new technology to make it work for people who want to learn hands-on skills online, it just makes you feel like there's so much opportunity to continue learning. Like the door is open to keep learning new skills online because we keep finding innovative ways to learn them and share them. So it is just a very fun and exciting time, I think, for Penn Foster and for all the learners out there that, I think we all learned a little bit during the pandemic that a lot more can be done from our homes than we had originally thought. And this is just kind of icing on that cake where we're really learning, like coming up with new innovative ways to make learning even better. From the comfort of our own home. So I just think I'm really impressed. I'm really excited, and it's a fun time for Penn Foster and our learners.
Yeah, Mara, thank you so much for all the work that you do to make our programs more engaging for our learners and improve the online experience. And thank you so much for joining us today on Facebook Live to be able to explain what we mean when we say that there are interactives in these programs and that there are these visual aids to help you with the more hands-on elements of the program. So we really appreciate you being here and talking through that today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much, Mara. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.